The Dallas Stars live to fight another day as they take down the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 5 of the Western Conference Final by a score of 4-2. Hey, everybody, this is Dane Lewis with the Locked On Stars podcast coming to you on Saturday night shortly after the conclusion of Game 5 in Vegas. And I'm fully back on the Dallas Stars hype train here in the conference final. Still a long way to go for this team, but they've come a long way since their ugly Game 3 defeat at home and really are starting to look more and more like themselves as this series has gone on. Jake Ottinger in particular has looked fantastic over the past two games, only allowing 2 goals. He saves 27 of 29 shots on Saturday night. Let in a few early on in the first and second period, but especially down the stretch, played particularly well, keeping the Vegas Golden Knights off the scoreboard in the third period, even when they had their goalie pulled and were playing 6-on-5. An incredible effort all around from the team, who was missing Jamie Benn for the past 2 games, but now Jamie Benn will get to come back for Game 6, which puts Pete DeBoer and the coaching staff in an interesting position because it's hard to pinpoint exactly who should be pulled or healthy scratched from Game 6 with Jamie Benn returning. But I can tell you who one of those players will not be. It'll be Ty Dellandrea, who scored 2 goals here in the playoffs. The first 2 or actually not his first 2. He had one earlier in the playoffs. His second and third goal of this postseason. His first multi-goal game in his young NHL career. He scores both of the goals in the third period for the Stars, the only goals for either team. The first one to put the Stars ahead 3-2, and then to give them the insurance that they've really been looking for all series long when they've had leads. It was the first time that the team has had a multi-goal lead in this series against the Vegas Golden Knights. He had 3 shots on goal and 3 hits with 15 minutes and 59 seconds of time on ice. So you just know, even though he was scratched early on in this series in games 1 and 2, I cannot imagine that he will be removed from the lineup for Game 6 with Jamie Benn coming back. I imagine Freddie Olofsson will probably be the one to draw the short stick there, which is a little bit of a shame because he's been playing very, very well for this team as he's had to fill in with the absence of Jamie Benn and Evgeny Dodonov as he has gone down with an injury. But nice to know that Olofsson is in reserve if his services are needed yet again. But what really impressed me here in this game, outside of just the effort and the determination and the sense of urgency from the Stars, is the way that they scored all of their goals, pretty much all of them coming in close and around the net. Like we talked about on the previous episode, they did a really good job again here in Game 5 of getting around the crease and making Adin Hill work to make his saves. And credit to Adin Hill for making some really big saves. I know Wyatt Johnston had a few really close looks. Rope Hintz early on in the game had a really close look right up in front of the crease, and he did make some saves when he needed to. But you look at the first goal of the game, Luke Glendening gets a tip in off of a Thomas Harley shot from the blue line. Jason Robertson gets one in tight after kind of a weird initial blocked shot. Really, the only one that didn't come in close was Ty Dellandrea's goal that would give the Stars the lead. Comes from out wide, but does get deflected by a Vegas defender. And then the next goal, just a mad rush around the net, and Dellandrea finds himself as the beneficiary. So again, they're finding ways to penetrate that Vegas Golden Knights defense, and it's paying dividends for the team so far. And it's impressive to see how they continue to do that when they're finding themselves down. I mean, they allowed the first goal again in this game. Ivan Barbashev scores, gets things rolling for the Vegas Golden Knights, and less than 2 minutes later, the Stars responded with a goal. And then kind of the same thing happened later on. Chandler Stevenson makes it 2-1 VGK, and then Jason Robertson a little over 2 minutes later skates down the ice and gets that game-tying goal to even things up at 2 in the second period. And so it's all about the response for this team. Ever since Game 3, they've looked like the far superior team to the Vegas Golden Knights. And I mean, again, there's still so much to do and so much to take care of, and a long way to go for the Stars team in terms of coming back in this series. But now you've proven that you can win a game in this series in Vegas. And so, and we know that they can win at home because they won Game 4 at home. So now you get to go back to Dallas for one final game. And if you can even the series up at 6, you have a ton of confidence knowing that you can go back to Vegas and get that win in Game 7. Of course, you do have to take care of business at home first, where the team has been pretty good for the most part here throughout the playoffs, really only averaging 1 loss at home per series so far against Seattle and Minnesota, both of those coming in Game 1 in overtime, And then, of course, in the Vegas series, not in overtime, a 4-0 shutout in what was just a disastrous game all around, with Jamie Benn getting ejected and fans throwing things on the ice. But it's been something special to watch the turnaround from this team, just to see them lose their captain, lose another key depth player in Evgeny Dodonov. Their backs against the wall, really no one giving them a chance, including myself. I felt pretty negatively about this team after that Game 3 performance, but I know that I'm starting to have a change of heart after seeing the way that the Stars have played. Again, the Vegas Golden Knights are not going to be an easy out during these, this next game or these next two games if there is a Game 7, but I'm starting to believe more and more that the Stars have what it takes to pull off this comeback. It's just a matter of keeping their foot on the pedal, because you have to play near perfect hockey from here on out if you're going to actually pull off this historic comeback and become the first team in NHL history to overcome that 3-0 deficit in the conference finals. And again, this Vegas Golden Knights team doesn't make a ton of mistakes, and they don't give you too many opportunities to take advantage of, penalty kills or, odd man rushes. But the Dallas Stars took advantage of the opportunities that they got, and they got back to playing their game, and they found a way to beat Vegas at their game by getting past that defense, getting in tight, and making Adin Hill work incredibly hard for his saves. Adin Hill has been great ever since he's had to step in for Laurent Brossoit here in the playoffs. But I'm not going to say he's completely, falling off the rails or the wheels are starting to shoot off for Adin Hill. But if the Stars can continue to add the pressure on him, I just don't know how much longer this magical run will continue for him, as the team in Dallas is making his life incredibly difficult, and much more difficult than it was early on in this series, or even against the Edmonton Oilers. So the team now gets to head back to Dallas for Game 6 on Monday night. They get their captain, Jamie Benn, back. And I'm also curious to see what the Vegas response is to Jamie Benn being back out there on the ice. I can't imagine they took too kindly to him trying to cross-check their captain, Mark Stone, or not really trying. He successfully cross-checked Mark Stone in the head during Game 3. So I wonder if that's something that the Stars could maybe use to their advantage, if there's going to be some sort of headhunting, targeting out there, going after Jamie Benn. If the Stars can use that to maybe draw some penalties and get some opportunities on the power play, because that's something that they didn't get in Game 4. They got no power play opportunities, only one penalty called in the entire game, and it was in 50 seconds into the game in the first period. Mason Marchment called for tripping on William Karlsson. The referees letting the guys play. There's probably a few other times that penalties could have been called either way, and the referees decide to let things continue on. So that's an interesting storyline in my mind to keep an eye on as we approach Game 6. How will the Vegas Golden Knights react to Jamie Benn being back out there on the ice? And is that something that the Stars can use to their advantage from a mental standpoint and potentially catch the Vegas Golden Knights off guard and maybe get a few penalties drawn and get some power play opportunities? I think that could really tilt the game and maybe even the series in Dallas's favor, now that they have such an important piece back in Jamie Benn. Just from a leadership perspective, most nights, and I imagine that he's learned his lesson and can do his best to keep his emotions in check out there on the ice. But he provides so much value to this team, especially offensively, just with the way that he's contributed on the power play and just the season that he's had, getting over 30 goals and almost 80 points on the year. An incredibly valuable player who made a mistake and hopefully has learned from his mistake, and I'm sure is grateful that he's getting another opportunity to leave his mark on the postseason, and that his season didn't end at the conclusion of Game 3 or at the conclusion of Game 4. But very, very exciting to see the series coming back to Dallas, back to what will be a sellout crowd at the American Airlines Center. Should be an incredible and electrifying environment. Let me know if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section down below how you're feeling about the Dallas Stars, as they now are only 2 wins away from heading back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Still plenty of work to be done, but plenty of promise has been shown as this team just continues to refuse to roll over and die. The season is not over, and they're going to keep fighting until they get the final say. If you are able to get this win here at home, even though they would be the road team in Game 7, you have to imagine that the momentum would be in the favor of the Dallas Stars. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your Memorial Day weekend. We will still have a full episode for you on Monday, despite the holiday, so be on the lookout for that. You can check out the Locked On Stars podcast on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast at. Thank you guys again for tuning in to this quick little reaction video, and we'll see you back here on Monday.